So playing the offensive tackle for our defensive ends, all right, their hands want to go to the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. All right, read his release. Most of the time, the tackle does come down. All right, so if they end up taking that down, that veer block, our DN's job is to control the B gap. All right, you want to control the B gap, don't get washed. We want to make it, so if we're looking at the left-hand side here, when this B back comes downhill, we want this thing to go as wide as it can. Okay, if we get washed here and this thing's able to hit tight, it's going to make life more difficult for our backers. Okay, so if the excuse me, if the tackle goes out, that's where we're getting to the arc block here on the right-hand side. All right, so now our DN wants to widen with that tackle, and again, try to keep our hands on the inside shoulder. Okay, so our Sam linebacker is keying obviously just the opposite of that. So on the left-hand side here with that veer block, as the Sam backer sees the quarterback and the B back open up that direction, he wants to get his eyes now to the tackle to see how that tackle is going to release. All right, keep in mind we're at 3.5 yards. We're tight to the line here. If that tackle comes down to block, then we're going to scrape over the top of that to plug that C gap right there. All right. If we get that arc block, like we're seeing on the right-hand side here, okay, so you get that arc block, and now our D end is widening with that tackle, the Sam backer will now plug downhill to plug B gap. All right, so we need our D end and our Sam backer working in tandem here to fit off of each other. All right, keep in mind, we still have a rover behind that Sam, that if something were to get misfit here and it were to crease us, that rover should be working inside out. We don't want him screaming outside right away, which those mistakes will happen. All right, but we want him to read things inside out so that if a mistake does happen here in our front four, that he could be there to clean it up. And he's going to tackle it for 7 or 8. Okay, but that's better than a touchdown. Now playing the quarterback. All right, so this is where our Chuck and Will, our overhangs, they get responsible for playing that QB. All right, so we teach them, we want them to what we call feather the pitch. I want them to feather the pitch. So if that option ends up coming your way, like it is for our Chuck backer here, all right, that quarterback's going to be coming downhill. It's going to be working right at the Chuck. We want our Chuck to step downhill tight to this offensive tackle. All right, we don't want him getting too wide and allowing them to be able to give that ball or have the quarterback pull it and hit that thing tight off the tackle. So we need him to step down tight to the tackle, but we don't want him getting upfield. All right, we want him settling at the line of scrimmage and then being patient. We want him to still, keep his feet active. Okay, but he wants to make that quarterback attack him. Okay, so again, don't let the quarterback hit that thing tight off the tackle, step up, but then we can't charge and be aggressive at the tackle. We don't want to make his decision easy. Make that quarterback attack you. All right, and if we can do that really well, we can get our guys getting their feet active and starting to feather that thing outside a little bit, all right, and widening that. We want them to have to delay the pitch as long as possible. All right, so the quarterback is our guy's responsibility, and they have to take the quarterback. That is their job. Okay. However, draw it out. Draw it out. The longer you can force that pitch to happen, the more time you get our guys to rally inside out, and you get our perimeter players, to get off block. So that's what we mean by feathering. Okay. Just gotta make sure they don't fall for the fake pitch as well. That's something that we do talk about and work on in practice. All right. Now, once that ball gets pitched, okay, so you see our Chuck, he steps downhill here on the quarterback. Quarterback attacks him. He pitches the ball to the pitchback. We need to work lateral. Okay, so one of the bigger mistakes is our guys tend to attack that quarterback a little bit, and then they try to round that thing. They're never going to get there off that. All right, so they need to step downhill, get that quarterback to pitch it, and then work directly lateral. All right, run the line. All right, run the 50-yard line, sideways to the sideline. And you try to force that pitch back to widen that thing out. Mm-hmm. So show you a couple examples here. We don't really have a great one. I don't think we got a perfect clip of us doing this. Again, this is not something that we see all the time. So I'll give you a couple poorer examples here, and then probably the best one that I had last. But this one, our pitch guy gets or our quarterback guy gets a little bit too aggressive. Okay. So right on the snap, he comes upfield right away, starts to get in the quarterback's face. Mm-hmm. There is a time and place to send that guy screaming at the quarterback, in my opinion. All right, and to force him to make a quick decision, try to get rid of it, especially if you've been feathering them all day long. All right, but this guy here would just be too aggressive getting himself upfield. All right, but you can see our inside guys there. All right, scraping over the top. Well, I'll come back to that. I'll show you that on the tight clip. Sorry. All right, but see, he gets upfield. He forces that pitch really quickly. Now, luckily, our corner does a good job here beating the block. Get the tackle for a 7-yard loss, but I would like to have tried to delay that pitch a little bit more. All right, so you look at our front now here. So their tackle is down. So you see our DN controlling that B gap. He's getting washed a little bit. This is where our backer does a good job seeing the tackle down. He scrapes over the top, and there he is right there in that B gap. Okay. So the one thing that's a little bit different with this team here, so I won't get into this as much. You can see they're really much more of a zone scheme. If you see the track of their back right there. So that is a play that will hit backside. So you can see our backside backer folding into that gap there as well. All right, most of the flex bone option teams you guys see are not going to have the same scheme. All right, so this is where you do have to worry about this thing hitting much more front side, as opposed to them hitting that backside there. So our backer does a great job scraping tight to that. Our quarterback guy, not a great job of being tight. All right, now here's one where just the opposite. He gets too vertical, too far upfield. So motion comes across. You can see him run upfield, give the quarterback that inside lane, right? We're not being tight to the tackle. Allows that quarterback to keep that thing and fold up underneath. And now again, our Sam linebacker does a great job of being tight right there in the middle, being tight, scraping tight offside that tackle, and the puller ends up overrunning him. He comes through there to get into the tackle. You guys can see that. All right. And then our rover, who we haven't talked much about him. So he's right here in the middle. Right there with the yellow dot. So you see he's scraping inside out, inside out, inside out. And he's right there to make the play too. Ends up being unblocked. All right, so here's probably the best example I had of the feather technique. Okay, but okay feather here. But so they're going to run to the field here. You can see our overhang there, our Chuck. He does a good job of kind of stepping down. He's tight, relatively tight to the tackle there. Makes that quarterback have to drag that thing out a little bit, but see at the very end there, he takes those aggressive steps to him there. I prefer if he stopped here and then worked his way laterally, he would get involved in this play as well too. But he still buys a little bit of time. So you can see our rover here in the middle has time to chase this thing down. And then I'll talk about our secondary in a minute here. But really, that rover right there is the one that remains unblocked. That's the tailback that's trying to come block him here.